We all know that Deion Sanders and Colorado's transfer portal methods have been the topic of discussion, but he got support from a very important person, and that's all that matters. And we're going to talk about that on today's episode of Locked On Buffs.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs, everybody. I am your host, Kevin Borba, and today we're going to be talking about the support that Coach Prime is getting from Rick George, the athletic director of Colorado. That's a good person to have in your corner. We're also going to be talking about the transfer portal and recruiting news because Colorado has some major news incoming. And then Travis Hunter was ranked as one of the best players in college football, which I'll talk about later. But before we start, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. We are available wherever you get your podcast, and we're free. Okay, let's dive right in. If you haven't been paying attention, or maybe you didn't know, maybe this is your first time watching an episode of Locked On Buffs, so you haven't heard about me discussing how much criticism and flack Coach Prime has been catching for taking in a lot of transfers, sending out a lot of transfers. The number's well over 50 at this point, which means he might take in 50. Who knows? But I talked about it 2 days ago. Anonymous sources, which you guys were not fans of. It was just an article I was reading. I had to discuss. Gotta make a show every day. Gotta talk about something. Anonymous sources from the Big 12, ACC, and I think another Pac-12 program is one of them too. They were basically saying that it's a huge risk. They don't know how it's going to work. They're very skeptical of his move, just in order to kind of how it's going to work moving forward. They compared him to Lincoln Riley, who even Lincoln Riley had a quote in the article saying something like it was as dramatic as his, something like that. And so either way, Coach Prime, we all know his method with the transfer portal is something we've never seen, will likely never see again, and it's probably something he won't do again unless he obviously takes a job elsewhere and feels that job that roster is terrible. But this team, and I think people forget this, Colorado last year, they're 1-11 roster. That's one shot right there. If you don't know, someone, love him very much. One of my favorite commenters on YouTube, he comments a little shot glass emoji every time I say 1-11. So right now, I guess we're technically at 2, but I always got to get the content. It just makes my day to see that one because I believe our most was a six shot episode. So we're getting a little shaky that day. But this roster fielded one of the worst football teams in college football history, probably. They ranked historically bad in just about everything. And now, when Coach Prime made it very clear that he was going to be flipping the roster, he was going to be bringing in as many people as he could, people are acting surprised. I think people are surprised, one, at the fact that he was able to maneuver his way into bringing in this many transfers. Two, I think people thought he was just going to chill with that bad roster and hope for the best and maybe just get some improvement like they were the Little Giants or something. Like this isn't a movie, or this isn't Rudy where everybody's dreams going to come true after struggling for years or whatever. Like this is real life. Like his job is on the line. He's getting paid to win games, and that team was not going to help him win games. I'm sure there's a couple of people that he would have liked to keep, like Montana Lamonius Craig or Jordan Tyson. That would have been very advantageous into winning games, but they're not there. And so that's okay. Those two guys were probably, of the whole transfer departure, I think they lost maybe 5 guys that they would have liked to keep. That would have been good to keep, but that's neither here nor there. Those guys are out there in the portal now looking for a new home. But either way, despite all of his criticism from other coaches, recruiting directors, there's one important person that's supporting him, besides me, of course, Colorado's athletic director, Rick George. He recently talked in an interview with ESPN's Heather Dinich and said, I have confidence in him and his staff, and they know what they're doing. That's what he told ESPN following the Pac-12 spring meetings. He's been very honest and forthright. He's been very open about it publicly and privately. He's trying to build a winner at Colorado, and this is his way to do it. He continued saying, when Sanders first came in, there's a lot of people here who may not be here and he said, this is Rick George talking to ESPN about Coach Prime's initial speech, if you will. Said George, he's just publicly stated it. There are a lot of people who don't. We're not the first to do this. The NCAA rule says you can have those discussions. If a student athlete wants to stay, they can stay. The university has to pay for them. They don't count on your scholarship limits, and they're not on the team. He continued saying, when people were asked about how Colorado chose who to go and who to stay, it was intended to have those conversations. And he's talking about the rule. And if you look at the first year coaches over the past 3 or 4 years, you'll see similar things. Maybe not that in great numbers, but when the transfer rule changed, we had 25 guys go in the transfer portal when we wanted to stay. So what's the difference? Coach is doing what he thinks is best for the program. I support that. The rule is in place for a reason. It gives the ability to do those kinds of things. Any student athlete who doesn't want to leave will honor their scholarship, will pay for it, and we've done that. So, I mean, Rick George is supporting him, so that's all that matters. If he was a little hesitant, like, I don't know, not sure if this is the right way to go about things, then I would say that'd be a little worrisome. But I'm sure Coach Prime told him when he took the job, that roster last year, terrible. Let me get these guys out and let me bring in some of my guys. And some of his guys include former 5-stars, proven players at the college level, just really high caliber guys. And it's going to be a huge difference. Now, are they going to win a national championship in year one? Probably not. I would say no. I'd bet a lot of, if I had to bet money, I'd say no, not year one. Year 2 or 3, I think when he gets more guys in here that he likes and recruits and stuff, I think there's a possibility that Colorado will be contending for championships. But year one is all about turning this program around, getting them to a bowl game, which it would be a heck of an achievement, going from 1 win to 6 to 7 wins. That would be major for Colorado. So everybody needs to relax with the criticism of Coach Prime. Okay, every college coach essentially kicks players off the team. Are they featured on YouTube videos every day doing or talking about doing so? No, but every college coach isn't Coach Prime. They could try to be. They could try to have his charisma. They could try to have his infectious energy, but there's only one Coach Prime. He's probably out of all college football, and unless I'm missing someone, so comment down below. Maybe Eddie George too, but I don't think Eddie George was as good as Coach Prime was. He's probably the most accomplished player to ever the most accomplished coach to ever play the sport and then come back and coach at the college level. Usually, I feel like college coaches are former, like Nick Saban. I think he played, but wasn't that good. Dabo Swinney was meh. But like Lane Kiffin played at Fresno State. He was decent. Steve Sarkisian played at BYU. But like no one is Hall of Famer, probably one of the best players ever. And so he's got that working to his advantage, and he's going to use his advantages the best way he can. So everybody needs to relax. Colorado is fully supporting him, as they should, because they are going to win some football games. Okay, before we move on, if you're looking for a delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and calories, then you need the best price. You need the best tasting protein bar ever built. You got to try this. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices, but you don't want to compromise on taste, I've got just the thing for you. Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. Seriously, they're so amazing. You won't even think they're good for you. You got to try this. What makes Built Bars so good? Well, for starters, they're all covered in 100% real dark chocolate. That's right, real chocolate, not that fake stuff. And they come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter brownie, and cookies and cream. I'm not sure how Built does it, but these bars taste like a candy bar while maintaining amazing macros. And what's even better is that they're healthy, only 130 calories and 4 grams of sugar with a whopping 17 grams of protein. And now you don't need to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built bars at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club, while you could still get your specialty flavors still at Built.com. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate bar, and coconut puff. If you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter puff, and churro puff. You could thank me later. I'd probably have to be a Walmart guy. I've never seen a Sam's Club. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think we have those in California. But if you got a Sam's Club, go find one. Okay, Colorado. Okay, let me recap what we just discussed. Coach Prime gets support from the athletic director, Rick George, who's telling everybody he's doing what he needs to do. And we need that. We expect that. We expected that, and we needed that. Part of what he needs to do is bringing in transfers, bringing in top recruits, and is he doing so? Let's start off with, let me flip a coin in my head. Heads or tails? It's tails. Okay, so we're going to start off with a transfer that he brought in. If you guys didn't see this yesterday, right after I recorded, which was uber annoying. Not really. It's how it works out. It's how the Coach Prime transfer saga has been going out because they just land so many that it feels like every time I finish something that they land another one. They got another wide receiver for their wide receiver room, EJ Horton from Marshall, one of the fastest players in the nation, a certified 4.3 40. He announced that he was transferring to Colorado yesterday. Didn't have a lot of production at Marshall. He spent 3 years there. Didn't play in 2020. He didn't use his eligibility in 2020 because of COVID. And then in or redshirting, he did play. He played in 18 games in the past 2 seasons, 12 this past year. Caught 16 passes, 245 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But he's extremely fast. Kind of offers another quick receiver. I think this offense is going to have maybe some of the fastest receivers in the country. They have Jimmy Horn, Tavarish Dawson from Auburn, who's also extremely fast, and then now EJ Horton. Travis Hunter is pretty athletic in his own right. So a lot of athleticism flying around. Again, if you guys want to go back to yesterday's episode, I talked about 5 transfers that I think no, it was more than 5. I think it was like 10 because I was finding some on the way. There was 2 receivers on my list: Shane Hooks and Jaquay Jackson from a D2 school. Shane Hooks from Jackson State, obviously, and then Jaquay Jackson came from the University of California at Pennsylvania or something like that. But they're both big body guys. EJ Horton, not the biggest guy. I do think they could still benefit from taking in another big receiver, but you know what? That's what they're going to do. And so far, so good. I think they're getting a lot of speed. They're going to get a lot of guys who could get out in open space. And when you get speedsters in open space, it's not easy to tackle them. And the Pac-12 has not been notorious for being tackling machines. So what are you going to do? Yeah. So they landed another one. Their class is still the number 1 class. And I honestly I think it would be quite impossible for because USC is in second. I think it'd be virtually impossible for USC to pass them, according to 24/7 Sports. That's my preferred method. So Colorado's team score is 89.20, and the closest team next to them is 82.36, which 7 points doesn't sound like that big of a difference. But let's go from first place to fourth place. Colorado, obviously 89.2. Auburn is in fourth place with a 76.47. So no one's going to be catching Colorado anytime soon. And they're going to keep adding because they have over 20 spots still to fill in order to field a full roster. I do think they still need to get a quarterback, though. Backup quarterback with someone who, and this is the perfect quarterback in my head. I don't know if he's out there for Colorado because obviously it would require someone being willing to come and not play at least for 2 years. But you want someone who has a little bit of experience, is willing to come and kind of sit. But then I look and I just don't see anybody like TJ Finley, I guess would be a good backup. But obviously he's leaving Auburn and he left LSU because he didn't want to be a backup. But if you could get someone that could be a rental in terms of, you know what, he's going to sit for a while and then he'll play. Like Hayden Wolf from Old Dominion, Harrison Bailey from UNLV. But either way, that's not what this is about. I talked about that yesterday. I just do think they need a quarterback. On the recruiting trail, the Buffs received massive news in 2 ways. For starters, the number 4 player in the country, according to 24/7, number 3 player actually, according to 24/7, Williams Nwaneri, 5-star defensive lineman out of Missouri, who was in fact in attendance of the spring game. He announced his top 10, which if you didn't see it, let me pull that up for you. It was schools such as Tennessee, Colorado, Missouri, Oklahoma. It was Missouri, Alabama, Oregon, Georgia, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Nebraska. So a lot of heavy hitters. They did have him for an unofficial, and he liked it. And so the best way to keep getting these kids to come is you get them for an unofficial, they like it, and then they come back for an official. So Colorado making the right moves. And then Colorado, it's like, I don't know what the opposite of the kiss of death is. It's like the kiss of success, if that's what we're going to call it here. Steve Wiltfong from 24/7 Sports is their head director of recruiting. And he is, if you're not familiar with 24/7's sites, they post what they call crystal ball predictions. And so the writers from anywhere could really it could be any writer, I guess, but it's usually you guys that it's usually guys that are in the situation. So like if there's a recruit considering USC, Texas, and Colorado, and a guy from Missouri like posts a prediction, it's like, doesn't matter. But like if someone from Colorado is like, yeah, he's going to Colorado, and then someone from Texas is like, he's going to Colorado, it's like, oh, okay. So it's usually very educated predictions. Their predictions are actually tracked, and so you can see their records. So guys can't just be out here putting predictions willy-nilly. But Steve Wiltfong, who is kind of, I believe his nickname is the Godfather of recruiting, he put in a prediction for 4-star athlete, wide receiver / defensive back Aaron Butler out of Calabasas, California, that he's going to come to Colorado. And so he put that in with a confidence of 6, which is a medium confidence, which it looks like he puts all of his things at. I think maybe he just does that so he doesn't like steal a shine from the recruit, because I do think that part of him, or part of what he does, kind of does steal the shine, because obviously once someone gets fonged, which is his last name with a D at the end, when someone gets fonged, you basically know that that's where he's going to go. And so if you're a Colorado fan, you should be thrilled, because Aaron Butler got a Colorado prediction yesterday. And just in case you don't trust me, Steve Wiltfong's prediction percentage is 91.44. And he's done well over 4,000 predictions. So pretty good, if you ask me. In terms of Aaron Butler, he ranks as the 65th player in the country, 5th athlete in the nation, and then the 9th best player in the state of California. His scouting report is interesting because I'll read it to you and then we'll discuss. It says, this is Greg Biggins, the national recruiting analyst for 24/7, who actually predicted he'd end up at Oregon at one point. Butler is a dangerous two-way player who could end up at corner or receiver in college. When he initially committed to USC, because he did commit and decommit from USC, the thought was he was going to play corner. He definitely has a corner skill set and plays with a defensive mentality. He's a physical player and has a lot of nastiness in his game. Whether he's blocking or jamming a receiver, he's looking to physically dominate his opponent. Will often stay on his block until he puts him on the ground or off the field. He has both short area quickness and long speed. It'll be interesting to see what kind of times Butler could put up on track this spring. As a receiver, he is really impressed and is a threat to score every time he touches the football. He currently plays with a bit of chip on his shoulder and has an edge in his game that reminds us a little of former Long Beach Poly and current New England Patriot defensive back Jack Jones. He needs to keep his emotions in check, but his upside is extremely high. Colorado's been very, very willing to let guys play both ways, and I'm wondering if that's kind of like a reason that he's considering Colorado as much as he is. Obviously, Coach Prime was there, so that's reason number one. But a lot of guys in recruiting in every sport, and as this happens in baseball, every non-pitcher thinks they could pitch, and every pitcher thinks they could hit. Football, everybody thinks they could. Like if you're a defensive back, you think you play wide receiver. If you're a running back, you think you play safety. Offensive lineman think they could play defensive line, vice versa. Everybody thinks they can do everybody's job. So when someone like Coach Prime is willing to let players play two ways, like Travis Hunter, Cormani McLean may be doing so, it's a big appeal, and that could be Colorado's big appeal. So big news for them. But Aaron Butler is going to be adding to, assuming he commits to Colorado, would be adding to Colorado's 2024 class, which currently ranks as the 45th class in the country, which I'm sure it'll go up. I just think that the program is so focused on getting guys on the roster right now that they know they could kind of delay recruiting a little bit. And so big news there. And then they were also named in the top 6 of Miles Rouser, transfer safety, former 4-star, was at one point committed to Arkansas, and then on signing day flipped to Campbell University. I never really saw like a reasoning as to why. It just like, you just want to be a fighting camel, I guess. But he'd put Colorado in his top 6 with Oregon, Penn State, and a couple other schools. And so, yeah, Colorado's making some great traction, and the Coach Prime effect. It's never left, but it's here, it's staying, and we're going to continue to follow it every step of the way. Before we close the show out, I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Buffs your first listen every day. We're available and free wherever you get your podcast. Everydayers, Monday we'll probably be talking about a few transfers. We're going to be talking about the latest Coach Prime news. So if you're an everydayer, which is what I call my frequent listeners, I appreciate you and continue to listen so we could go on this journey together. Last topic of the day, 24/7 Sports released their top 15 college football players heading into 2023, and Colorado's Travis Hunter was featured on the list in a very prominent spot. So let me run through the names a little bit. 15 was Alabama's edge rusher, Dallas Turner, the heir to Will Anderson, if you will. Braylon Allen from Wisconsin, the running back. He was on here. Emeka Ogbuke from Ohio State, receiver. What a name on this guy. Jerzon Newton from Illinois, defensive tackle. And then at number 11, corner/receiver Travis Hunter, Colorado. Hunter was one of the biggest transfers to come with Colorado, or come to Colorado with Coach Prime. And now he's expected to be a shutdown, lockdown corner and one of the best receivers in the country. So big expectations for him. Then 10 was Blake Corum, Jared Verse at Florida State, an edge rusher. Blake Corum's a Michigan running back, if you didn't know. Edge rusher from Florida State. Joe Alt, offensive lineman from Notre Dame. Alu Fashanu, Penn State offensive lineman. I probably butchered the hell out of that, but I tried. Corner Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. Harold Perkins, a linebacker from LSU. Drake May, quarterback, North Carolina. Brock Bowers, Georgia tight end. Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver, Ohio State, number 2. And then number 1, Caleb Williams. But yeah, Travis Hunter. I think we all see the expectations. Coach Prime said this was maybe a month or so ago. Coach Prime said that at this point in his career, Travis Hunter was better than he was. So high praise from one of the best football players ever. The expectations for Travis Hunter is that he's going to help this team in a multitude of ways. He's going to be probably one of the lead receivers, and then he's going to be the lockdown corner, hopefully. That's going to be shutting down some of the best receivers in the country, because Pac-12 has not only some really good quarterbacks, but they got some great receivers. They got Oregon's Troy Franklin, Roman Oduzde from Washington, Dorian Singer at USC, Jacob Cowing at Arizona. Like the talent is just all over the place. It's just super high level. You don't want to kind of risk being burned by these guys. And so Travis Hunter is going to play a major role in Colorado's success this year and for years to come, because they get him for another year. So yes, Colorado has a lot of talent on the roster. They got some talent coming. And everybody who matters in the program supports how Coach Prime is getting this talent. So that's a recipe for success at Colorado. A recipe for success for the Locked On podcast, Locked On Buffs podcast, is you subscribing, sharing this with a friend. Give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple. We appreciate you guys. Go listen to the pod if you don't want to see me. I feel like I look pretty good all the time. I always got some nice shirts on, whatever. Doesn't matter. This is a podcast as well. So go make sure you give us 5 stars on Spotify and Apple. The more you listen to and watch this podcast, the better I do. So I appreciate you guys. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday.